With Switzerland's businesses conditions becoming less attractive, is Switzerland still attractive as a host for life science companies? So Philippe, is Switzerland still attractive for life science companies?
Absolutely. And I think Switzerland may not be as attractive for foreign companies as it was maybe 10, 20 years ago, but it is still extremely attractive. And actually, Switzerland is ranked #1 in the World Economic Forum report on competitiveness. And recently, we had major projects from life science coming to Switzerland from abroad. One of them is Biogen from the USA. Another one is Tasly from China.
And in concrete terms, what does the strength of a life science cluster actually mean?
Yeah, I think, as you rightly mentioned, in addition to a very good business condition in general, the main strength of Switzerland for life science company is the strength of our cluster. And basically, a cluster is an ecosystem composed of competent employees, good university with research department, client, service provider, venture capital. On basically, this is the main strength of Switzerland. It is our cluster in life science. Let me now take an example showing why the cluster is so important. In the life science company, you typically have to make clinical trial to test your new medicine. And then you have to do it over more than 1,000 patients, and it lasts often more than 10 years, and it's very expensive. And you have to do it very fast, because when you start to do the clinical trial, the patents start to run. So the faster you do, the more years of protection you will have from the patent. And in order to make clinical trial very fast, you need at least two things. You need many service providers, which can help you at every single phase to work very fast. And then you need competent, what we call principal investigator. They are sort of external scientific sponsor of the clinical trial. And in Switzerland, we have both. We have many service providers, and we have many competent principal investigators.
And 1,000 people to be involved, that sounds like a really massive number. So can they all be found in just a tiny Switzerland?
Yeah, I think this is a very, very good question. I mean, because even though the clinical trial, they are managed from Switzerland, very often with a company we call CRO, and with many of them in Switzerland, most of the patients are not in Switzerland because we don't have enough patients. It's as simple as that. So the patients tend to be in the target markets, Western Europe, USA, and often also countries which are lower cost and where it is easier to recruit patients, countries like India and China.
Of course, and Switzerland does sound very appealing, so I do hear your arguments. But is it true that life science companies such as McCook, Serrano and Shire have actually moved away from their original locations in Switzerland?
Yes, as usual, Jessica, you are very well prepared. Yeah, what you mentioned is true. We had two major companies who left. One left Switzerland, and the other one, Shire, moved from one part of Switzerland to another part of Switzerland. But I think we have to see that business by nature is risky. It's not because one major company leaves your country that you have to conclude that you have bad business conditions. And if you take the example of Merck Serono, according to what was written in the press, it seemed that the pipeline of new product was not full enough, so they had to take a tough decision. But when you look at some company leaving Switzerland, you can also take it the other way around. Because we are very liberal in Switzerland, because it's very easy to hire people, but also to terminate contract, many companies decide to invest in Switzerland because they know that if it doesn't work, they will be able to leave relatively easily.
Well, it all sounds very interesting. So Philippe, thank you so much for coming in once again and sharing your insights. Well, that's all for myself and Philippe, but for all the latest Jugoscopy updates and market moves, keep coming back to Jugoscopy TV.